I work with companies and I've always advised companies to try to be as straightforward and easy to understand for our investors as possible. We don't want things to be complicated. So I appreciate any initiative that also attempts to contribute to that effort.
Joining me today is Taryn Fielder, Executive Vice President, General Counsel, and Secretary with Veris Residential. Taryn, thank you so much for joining us.
Happy to be here. Thank you for having me.
Now, you've served as the General Counsel of both an office REIT and a multifamily REIT. How does that role differ depending on the REIT's property sector?
Yeah, so I've actually served for two REITs who have been office or multi-sector REITs transitioning into multifamily, but at different stages of that transformation. In the office world, you deal with a lot of almost exclusively commercial tenants, long-term leases, locked-in rates, very predictable, relatively stable, and I was heavily involved in a lot of those negotiations because I have a real estate background. The multifamily side, very different, right? Shorter lease terms, lots of turnover, much less predictable, and more dynamic and interesting. But I find that I'm focused more on monitoring for federal, state, and local housing codes, monitoring for rent control legislation, and really focused more on what might be happening at a macro level rather than being dug in negotiating tenant leases.
Now, from your private practice experiences earlier in your career, you have a strong background in corporate governance and securities law. How important has that skill set been in your work as a REIT General Counsel?
Yeah, I would actually characterize my private practice experience as moderate in that range, or in that realm. I really was a real estate lawyer and very focused on what I'll call dirt real estate, so transactions, doing the leasing, getting involved in the day-to-day matters of managing real estate. But having just enough of a background to be dangerous, I think, has been helpful. It helps me to know where I need to ask for outside counsel expertise, helps me identify some of my blind spots, and keeps me pretty honest so that I'm not misleading my companies in terms of my experience and expertise.
Now, the SEC has pursued an ongoing initiative of disclosure simplification and proposed and adopted several rules related to this initiative. Many observers have noted that, paradoxically, public company disclosure and reporting has actually become more complex during this time. Has REIT disclosure and reporting also become more complex, in your opinion?
Yeah, it's a great observation and question. And, from my perspective, I work with companies and I've always advised companies to try to be as straightforward and easy to understand for our investors as possible. We don't want things to be complicated. So I appreciate any initiative that also attempts to contribute to that effort. Those initiatives might not always be successful, and we have the opportunities to provide feedback, which we do on a regular basis with Nareit's assistance.